Okay, good morning everyone. Happy Monday. It is October 25th, 2021, coming into the last week of October here. And we're going to go ahead and do our pre-market analysis for the S&P 500 futures market. We had a pretty good little rally here going in through the overnight session. We're just going to have to see if we get any follow through here, and we'll see what all these charts have to say. Just kind of stepping back here, you can see that essentially we've got, for the last 2 or 3 mornings, we've had the same scenario where we've got some bearish stuff off highs, bullish stuff off overnight lows, and until we actually can break out from the range, it's going to be difficult to really discern direction here. Going to our quarterly chart, our 3-month chart here, everything looking really good, very bullish. Same scenario that we talked about all throughout last week with our wick to the downside. Now we've pushed to make new all-time highs, so everything is looking nice and strong. From this RVI range, as you can see, we are way up in the practically the 90s. So from this quarterly perspective, just very, very strong. Our monthly, as you can see, this is going to close here and at the end of the week, right, on Friday afternoon, we will have an official closed monthly bar here. And what we can say right now is we got our bullish engulfing. So we talked about this last week, the fact that if the market could push to new all-time highs, we would break the previous high on this monthly chart, and we would have a nice bullish engulfing bar. So as long as we don't close below the low here, we will have that bullish engulfing bar. And what else can we say? Another thing we can say here is we have pushed to the higher high, right? So we broke the previous all-time high there and pushed a little bit higher, but the RVI is still sloping downward. So there's still a little bit of that bearish argument going on. Keep in mind that this is just a subsequent bar type situation. And then also keep in mind that we have 5 days here. So in 5 days, this RVI very well could change. If it did end up, let's go ahead and remove this current line that we just put on. If this RVI did end up closing like that, like it comes down and then on Friday afternoon, the bar closes and it's pointing upward right here, then that would be at least be good for what's going on, because we wouldn't have the current bearish case that we could make off of the previous bar. So I'm spending a little too much time on this. The monthly still looks very strong with this bullish engulfing bar. Just want to keep in mind that we do have a downward sloping RVI, even though the price is inching ever so higher here. On our weekly, we talked about this last week, that this bar that we were currently forming was showing a little bit of bearishness on the RVI. And we said that we're probably going to have this case now as price, or assuming that price does continue to advance higher, maybe up into this 46.80, which would be that 27 extension of this leg that we were looking at on the weekly chart. We are going to potentially continue to have these bearish arguments because RVI is so low right now compared to back when we made the all-time high at the beginning of September, at least on this December contract. So as price continues to launch upward, this RVI is probably going to continue to play around like this, and you could still make arguments from the previous all-time high that we do have that bearishness. So we want to keep that in mind here. It's going to make it difficult to pinpoint maybe where the high might be, just because every time we push to new highs here, we will have that bearish argument on the weekly. So not necessarily helping us out. And when we get to our daily, the daily looks strong. There are no signs of exhaustion on the daily chart. What might make sense is when we start to see the daily showing a nice clear bearish exhaustion pattern, that might be when we want to start hanging our hats on a more bearish case, because then we'll have the daily then coming into alignment with that weekly potential bearish case over there. So we'll just have to kind of watch this throughout the week. So far, if I could just kind of quickly sum this up, I spent way too much time on the higher time frames here. The quarterly looking really strong. The monthly with this bullish engulfing bar looking very strong as well. And then the weekly is the only time frame that has this scenario that we talked about on the bearish end. And the daily has no signs of bearishness. So everything, in my opinion, on the higher time frames is looking pretty strong here. When we get down to the 4 hour, this is what I was talking about when we started the pre-market here this morning. We have this same case where we get a bearish argument off the previous daily high. So coming into this morning, we have a bearish case off of the highs we made from Friday. But then on the overnight low, we got a really nice bullish divergence here. And that's what, if you guys remember back to last week, that's what we said on Friday morning. That's what we said on Thursday morning. And I believe we also said on Wednesday morning. So yeah, on Wednesday as well, there was a nice bullish divergence here right off that low, which is not marked on here, but I'll go ahead and put it on there now. So essentially the same scenario. Everything from the higher time frames looks strong, so we would expect a continued push, but we just want to keep in mind that that 4 hour, and then as we dial down, maybe the shorter time frames will also show the bearishness. We want to keep in mind that could potentially hold, but ideally that will end up the pullback, the larger pullback will end up happening when the daily starts to give us a sign. So 4 hours got bearish off previous daily high, but bullish off the overnight low. So that's just where we're at. And then the 60-minute, I would assume, is going to agree with everything we're seeing. There's the bearish case off the previous daily high. And then the overnight low here got a really nice bullish divergence. In fact, back, what is this, maybe 1, 2, 3 hours into the Globex session on this pullback, had you have seen this really glaring bullish divergence on the 60-minute and the 4 hour, remember, it was as it was developing, so you wouldn't have necessarily had a closed bar, but right around that time on that pullback, you would have seen this 4 hour was much lower on RVI, but price was much higher, and you would have seen this 60-minute close over here with a really a higher low compared to the low we made from Friday's low, right? Much higher up, but the RVI was way lower, right? So you would have seen this in real time when this bar closed at around 5 p.m. Pacific last night. And then just look what ended up happening here as we continued to push in the overnight session. Just this really nice continuation through from 45, let's just call it 22, all the way to the overnight high here at 45 for over a 20-point push. So 60-minute, really nice agreement with that 4 hour signal there off the overnight low. And then I do think that outside of the bearish argument from the previous daily high, we do have some more local bearish signals here off the overnight high. So we're in that same scenario as we were on Friday, Thursday, and Wednesday here. We'll just go down to the intermediate time frames. I think they're essentially going to give us the same information. There's the really nice, well, let me go to the 30-minute. There's that 30-minute bearish divergence from the previous daily high. And then on the overnight low here coming into this morning, really nice bullish divergence there. Again, right around that 5 p.m. Pacific time, an alignment on 30-minute, 60-minute, and even the 4 hour. And now you can see we got this nice 23-point push higher, approximately 23 points. And now they're continuing to try to push and break the overnight high right now, which it looks like they're probably going to do here. So let's look at the 10 real quick just to see. 10 did get a bullish divergence just before 5 p.m. there. And then maybe not the most beautiful argument for the overnight low, but just before we pushed down to probe into the overnight low, we did get a bullish divergence on the 10. And then going back to the previous daily high from Friday, nice bearish divergence up top. So as you can see, because the high time frames do kind of hint at the fact that we're not done with the current bullish push, we would expect higher highs this morning. So we could expect a break of the previous daily high, which is our overnight high, or which is our all-time high. We could expect a break of the all-time high and an attempt to push higher. So we expect higher highs compared to the previous daily high. No guarantee as to how far they're actually going to push, but that's what we would expect this morning. If they can't get through the previous daily high, then all of the bearish arguments, remember from the 4-hour down, could lead to, again, a deeper pullback. The problem is, and as you can see here, as we zoom back and you look for the last entire month, essentially, from the October 1st low, where, again, I'm going to pat ourselves on the back. October 1st had a really clear bullish divergence going all the way up to the daily. And as you can see from that point, 42.60, we pushed all the way to almost 45.60, almost a 300-point push just in the month of October here. But again, I digress. As we push here, as you can see, we do get bearish divergences on the 4-hour. It leads to a shallow pullback and then a continuation. So don't hang your hats too much on the bear side, because I'm just saying that because we see that every time they try to take the market lower, the bulls jump right back in and continue to push it higher. And like I said, once our daily, our weekly, and our monthly really start to come into alignment with a clear bearish signal, that's when we will really start to kind of put more weight on a potential bearish pullback. And as I say all the time, just because what our signals and our charts are saying right now is what, just because it's saying what it's saying doesn't mean that has to happen. So we could just have a gigantic sell-off this morning, and I could be completely wrong about our bias. So, it's not 100%, but that's what we're seeing this morning. We expect that push to break the previous daily high there. So I'll leave that there for our YouTube viewers, and then I'm going to go ahead and jump over, get our eye levels on the chart, and start looking for some trades for our members here this morning. So have a great rest of your day.